Okay, so earlier on in the Principal Dynamics course, we've spoken to artifacts. And then in the last video, we spoke to habits and how habits make up the personality. Now, something we need to speak to here, this is going to be, this is touching back on the roots of my training, really, and the training of the entire foundation. I mean, obviously, Megan came in later, Sweetie Cheeks came in later, and I trained her as best I could from my perspective at the time, so it wasn't like she didn't really get the same progression as Boob and I and Tati and Lily and everybody else. Obviously, nobody really got the same progression as me, having trained under Ariel directly. So, but all of us got this was going to be the first thing that we really worked with. It's going to be the first identifiable factor that we had in play insofar as playing the game and engaging synchronicity is concerned. Is going to be a series of habits or a collection of habits that people tend to collect while they're maturing. As you go through developmental phases, some people mature faster than others, and when we speak to maturity, obviously we speak to street smarts, we speak to book smarts, we speak to one's very consideration of life itself, you know, one's ability to empathize, to understand, general understanding, and, you know, worldliness. But you know, we also speak to these certain phases that people tend to go through, and this is how we began identifying the color types, really was by identifying different stages in their development that they seem to go through. Like, we could identify blues real easily by watching, watching them develop, or engaging them, you know, getting their story from them, or some people write their stories, you know, whatever the case is, we get their story, their history, and you can see these specific phases in their development. Now, throughout their development, especially in adolescence or immaturity, people tend to develop habits to draw attention, because attention is, you're the observer. When you observe something, when you direct your attention, there's an energy that you put forth that causes a reflective factor. It causes reality to position itself. It causes the very particles to identify themselves for you. Pretty much is like you look somewhere and every little piece of existence, all the values that are in play are called to attention and focus and look at you. You're the director, and they present themselves to you. It's like reality pops up to present itself, to identify itself, to address you. And there's an energy that you put forth there. Attention directs energy, general attention. I mean, you can focus your concentration, you can work at a problem, you can do all kinds of things to concentrate energy. But in general, wherever you focus your attention, that's going to direct the energy that you're putting out. And you can, especially greens, but anybody can practice with this by getting a plant or finding a plant and focusing your attention on it. Talk to the plant, sing a song to the plant, whatever the case is. You know, the more that you put into it, the more effective it's going to be. But just generally focus your attention on a plant and look at the beauty of it. Observe the colors of it. Become aware and realize the beauty of that object, and watch. It will develop, it will grow. You'll put energy into it and it will get stronger, it'll get healthier, it'll blossom. And this happens with people too. This especially happens with people. And this is why people drag attention. This is why people need attention. And they develop habits to try and draw energy from other people in this way. And the initial 4 primary habits, we've identified 2 more beyond that because I present one, but the 4 initial habits is going to be what we've called the poor me, and this is all laid out in the Celestine Prophecy. If you haven't read that, you should read it. It's going to get in depth about it. It'll give you everything you need to know about it. I'm going to give you the gist of it here, though. You have the poor me. These are what we call control dramas. There's a poor me control drama. There's an intimidator control drama, an interrogator control drama, and
power brushing. Oral-B just cleans better. Even my hygienist said going electric can lead to way cleaner teeth.
I lost the 4th one. 1 second. Duh. The aloof control drama. I probably forgot it because that was the one I used when I was a kid. Now, beginning with the aloof control drama. Aloofness, if you don't know what that means, it's kind of it's difficult. I don't know the exact description, but it's when people are kind of hanging out in the back and they're not really engaging, and they're kind of being the mysterious person in the shadows in the background, and cross their arms and lean up against the wall and just kind of play mysterious fellow, so that they drag attention. So often they'll put a value into play, like they'll suggest that they have a problem, again using problems to draw energy and to dissociate the self, essentially. But again, you use problems. The reason that problems are effective, or the measure by which problems are effective in dissociating the self and causing that disconnection from reality, is because you can blame the problem. The value that you put into play there is that you have an external factor that you can place the blame for your scenario on, and thereby relieve yourself of the responsibility of having created that difficulty and having to deal with it. So, again, the aloof people, they'll often put a problem into place, suggesting that they're dealing with some kind of an issue that's beyond your understanding, and then they're going to hang out in the back, and they're going to, kind of be that mysterious fellow that's got something interesting going on, and they're going to drag your interest, they're going to drag your attention. Now, the intimidator, that's obvious one. The intimidator is going to be pushing people around. That's the school bully. That's the dickhead. That's the person who's always causing problems, the person who's trying to get up in your face, and just be alpha male bully type. And we get this with women too. It's not just alpha male. There are a lot of alpha females. In fact, I think you might take notice that there are probably more of those nowadays. Anyways, the interrogator, self-explanatory. The interrogator is going to be questioning everything, always pressing you for facts, pulling at you, trying to get you to answer questions about yourself. Ultimately, they're going to try and turn sway the conversation around to you answering questions about what you think about them. They're going to want to address themselves, but initially they're going to start by addressing you, and they're going to just incessantly interrogate you, continuously question you about whatever they can, and just dig at you in that way, and thereby drag your attention because you have to provide them answers. Then, the poor me, self-evident, poor me is going to be the dude who's fucking always got some kind of a massive problem, always down and out, always needs pity, sympathy, those people. And these are habits that you develop through the phases of your development, through your personal evolution. And the reason I mention the artifacts is because these are going to be, if you have these in your adulthood, then you probably haven't actually developed into true maturity. You haven't outgrown these habits and really outgrown the necessity for dragging attention, because you eventually, one of the first things you're going to want to learn is that you provide yourself with energy. Your own attention upon yourself is enough to sustain you. It's enough to supercharge you. You can fuel yourself. You don't need somebody. That's going to be something else that the Celestine prophecy will speak to, is having a half circle. I think is how they referred to it. I don't remember now. It's been so long. But where romantic love is concerned, most especially, we have the train. Okay. Now I forgot what I was saying. These habits are developed throughout the phases of your development. Oh yeah, the romantic love thing. Sorry. Fucking train. But especially in romantic love, or really, but in any engagement, any sort of a partnership, really, people tend to have this idea that they need another person to complete them. That is especially, like, romantic love is the best example, obviously, but there are people such as myself who seek partnership, just general partnership, not necessarily even romantic love. I'm a diehard romantic at heart. I'm ever seeking that special someone, that's been my life goal forever and ever. My dream is to find that other person, but generally I'm seeking partnership, and I'm seeking partnership in everybody. I want everybody to be my partner. I want everybody to come together, be working together, be solid, loyal, loving, trusting, essentially. I want that's what you yearn for. That's what I yearn for. That's what most people are going to yearn for. When they consider love, when they think of needing love, that's really what they're talking about, is trust. And that's what we're seeking. Now, if you can't trust yourself, and if you're not complete in and of yourself, if you don't feel of what we call aloneness, being capable of sustaining yourself on your own without the need for others, without some other half, you're a half circle. Two half circles, they're not going to fit. It's not solid. It's not going to work. It's always going to be broken circle. So you need to develop to the point where you understand yourself as being the full circle, that you can be on your own and you don't need somebody else. It's not needing and being able to trust yourself and have loyalty into yourself. That's going to be the primary engagement you want to have in play before you even attempt engaging some sort of a romantic entanglement, because it's not likely to work out unless the both of you develop into that person through the relationship. But how likely is that to occur, considering that you're essentially using each other for that other half of the circle? So, I mean, that can happen if you're both aware of the progression, you're both aware of that development, and you're making it together. Absolutely, that'd be awesome, but ordinarily that's not what's happening. Now, you want to be that full circle on your own before you engage in other partnership or romantic relationship. Most especially, you both need to be that full circle on your own together. Link it like that magic trick with the circles. It's pointless. Anyways, so as I was saying, you likely haven't developed beyond that stage where you feel as though you require somebody else's attention. You require a caregiver. You have not become your own caretaker yet. And you haven't accepted responsibility for yourself as an individual. You need somebody else or something else. And that's what these habits, these control dramas are about. Now, if you still have one of these control dramas, as I said, A, you probably haven't developed to that stage, or B, there's something broken. There's a broken value in you, likely caused by a trauma or something of that nature, that is causing you to hold on to this habit, that you become essentially somebody who's grown into the stage where they understand themselves as being an individual, and they're alone. They're that full circle essentially on their own, but they're still using other people for that attention. That's what we call vampires. That's what we call psychic vampires. They deliberately feed off of the energy of others, because these habits throughout the course of your maturing, adolescent stages, you're not really, for the most part, you're likely not even aware that you're doing it. It's just a habit that you form out of pretty much necessity, false necessity. So, if you still have one of these habits, we're going to have to regard it as an artifact of your adolescence, and that's, again, you want to identify that. You see if you're doing that, and you can also spot this in others. It's a very easy way to spot other people's tendencies and to address other people, like to make a connection with other people. If you can identify their control drama, you can see essentially what makes them tick, for the most part, what's sustaining them, what's giving them their life force, their prana, and kind of, I suppose you could say, you could identify their fuel source for the most part, and then you can make use of that, especially for spot casting. But you want to identify it in yourself, and you want to try and eliminate it. Realize that you're doing it, and kick it. Get rid of that habit. It's a bad habit. You don't need it. You have yourself. And you want to develop better habits. Now, that's where two other habits come into play in spiritual adulthood, so to speak, and in the later stages of your emotional development. One is going to be what I suppose we could call as a service or a server role, such as myself, wherein you're always seeking to provide service to somebody else. You're always seeking to be helpful to somebody. You're always seeking to try and do something good for somebody else, just for the fucking sake of it. Like, you're not getting anything out of it in most cases. In fact, the habit might be developed in the lacking of compensation, wherein it's actually become a principle to you to not accept compensation, to do things absolutely free of charge, which is what the initiative is based on. Now, obviously, this is not a bad habit, but it's still a habit, and it can still drag you. but that's how you're gaining attention. And I suppose this would fit into taking a leadership role as well, because obviously you can't be a leader if you're not providing service. So I mean, but a server role, that's going to be one of the other habits. And then another one that develops in people is not, it's fraud. It's fraudulence. It's gossiping, lying about people, lying to people, making shit up, just bullshitting people. And that's one of the major habits that people develop in adulthood, is fucking bullshit and just being fraudulent. And even, where criminal fraudulence comes into play, that's what we're talking about there. So those can be tricky to spot, because obviously in order to make use of that habit effectively, they have to develop the ability to hide the fact that they're lying. They have to be good liars. So that, you want to look out for that, because that's, again, as a psychic vampire, this energy reserve that you have, it can be depleted, especially if you don't have that kundalini impulse active, those chakras opened up. You can be low on energy, and this is where, such things as clinical depression comes into play, where people are just sapped of energy all the time, and they don't feel energized. It could very well be because you have other people just sapping you of energy and dragging you. So again, you need to identify this, and there are methods by which to address these habits directly when you see them happening. If you want to cut them, if you see somebody else using these habits and you want to clip them, there are ways you can do that. There are ways you can stop it point blank, dead in the water, and remove it from their system. You can actually, if you see that momentum happening where they're using that, and you put a stop to it, put the brakes on that shit right away, once you put a stop to it, their operating system is wide open. They don't know what to do, and that's when you can actually reach in and remove that fucking program. And we'll get into that in another video. I don't have time for it here, but yeah, those are going to be the 6 primary habits that we've identified. And essentially, for right now, unless you want to go ahead and read the Celestine Prophecy, it's going to tell you how to do this. For the four initial habits, the immature habits, but then we have the 2 others. So I mean, you can go ahead and do that with the Celestine Prophecy, but for now, the way that you want to address these habits essentially is firstly, obviously, you want to identify your own and you want to get rid of it, and all you have to do there is meditate, as in focus on that, make sure you're aware of that as it's happening, and make sure to decidedly remove it. Don't do it. Stop yourself every time you do this. That's simple. Every time you have a bad habit in play, like most especially if you're a negative person, if you're constantly thinking negativity, thinking down about things, dude, it's really simple. Just stop yourself when you're doing that. Say, no, I'm not going to do that. It's no good for me, because it's not. There is no point whatsoever where worrying about something and feeling down about something, putting your life down, is going to be beneficial to you in any way. So when you see these habits happening, just put the brakes on them and make a different decision. Be operative, be awake, alert, aware, and control your own considerations. So that's that. But when you see it in other people, basically, I guess you probably just want to be aware of it. And I mean, if you're aware of it, for the most part, you can kind of designate how much energy you really give to these people, so they're not going to like sap you dry. Because I mean, you can walk away, but then also, I mean, obviously, you might want to avoid it entirely. And that's a shitty thing to say, really. I don't like to have to say that, because that, implies division. It implies avoiding certain people, cutting people out of your life. I don't like that. A lot of people, especially in this field, they're going to say if you have negative people in your life, you need to cut them out of your life. I think that's bullshit. I call bullshit on that, because, I mean, you can help if somebody is negative, you can help them, A, and B, everybody's got something to give you too. Everybody's got something that can be beneficial to you. There's a law of equivalent exchange in play. We haven't spoken to that yet, but we will. But there's never really, I mean, unless somebody's like a pedophile or a murderer, or somebody's just like deliberately wrecking your life, like a total wrecking ball, you know, like actually actively trying to harm you and being, you know, shitty evil person, I don't see any reason why you should ever just cut somebody out of your life. I don't like that. You know, you can take it as you wish. If you decide to think otherwise, that's fine, but that's my opinion on the matter. I'm anti-blocking, you know, because I got blocked so much. Anyways, yeah, that's it for those habits. Just pay attention. Keelah, Taerve, siari. Namaste. You know, thank you for your time.